so I'm in Paris, right? And the only place open is McDonald's. So we're standing in line, and I ask my friend, the guy I'm sleeping with, and I'm like, how do I say just cheese in French? And he's like, seulement deux fromages. So I walk up to the woman working there, and she's like, McDonald's, bonsoir. And I was like, bonsoir, je voudrais un cheeseburger avec seulement deux fromages. She stopped typing. She looked at me and she goes, seulement deux fromages? I'm like, oh my God, it's happening in another country right now. She turned to the cook and she's like, c'est garçon, voudrais seulement deux fromages. And then the cook came out and he was like, seulement deux fromages? I'm like, oh, I can't be the only person in Paris who's ever wanted seulement deux fromages. Finally, they made my burger and they like very begrudgingly gave it to me. They're like, here's your burger. I'm like, merci. And I stormed off. And when I got home and opened it up, it was just bun with cheese.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Can Keithie Take the Heat? I am your host, Keithie Langston. As you can see, I have upgraded. I'm almost starting to look like a real-life chef. And today on the episode, we're going to be deviating from JR's cookbook, mostly because I want to give a special shout-out to a friend of mine, Jeremy, who sent me as a thank you gift. One of the comedian, Matteo Lane, I don't know if anybody knows Matteo Lane, but he came out with a cookbook that says, Your Pasta Sucks. And he's a pretty funny comedian, and I like him a lot. So actually, what we're going to be doing today is kind of making a little bit of an Italian dish, polenta, and I'm going to make some cutlets, some chicken cutlets. So polenta, for anybody that isn't Italian or doesn't know, it's basically a cornmeal porridge kind of thing. What you can do is you make it, and you can use it really as a side or as a base for any kind of a meat dish or anything like that. Or you could just serve it directly with some meat sauce or even some marinara sauce, which I'm going to be making a little bit of like a side marinara sauce today, along with my chicken cutlets. Now, my chicken cutlets, or Cotoletta, I believe is he pronounces it in the book. Again, these are two recipes that are going to be adapted from his cookbook, and I'll go over those recipes exactly at the end. But, I'm kind of adapting them a little bit. The polenta one, I'm kind of sticking true to his original recipe. And the cutlets I've made cutlets in the past, and I like the way I make my cutlets. So it's pretty similar. So already set up to go. I have my chicken broth, and it was about 5 cups of chicken broth that I have boiling, or it's at a simmer right now. Also on the back burner, I do have some tomato sauce. It's passata, which is just basically ground up pureed tomato and basil. And I've thrown in it a little salt, pepper, some red pepper flakes. And in lieu of frying up any kind of onions and garlic, I just put a little garlic powder and a little onion powder, and then, of course, a little bit of sugar for taste. That's just basically a base sauce to go with this. It's not my regular sauce, which I can always give to anybody if you want, and everything. I'll probably do that one week where I do like actual meatballs and sauce like that. But for the polenta, like I said, you have 5 cups of chicken stock. I went with actually, I'll show you what it is, just because I like to give a shout out to them. It's Zoop, really good chicken broth. And this is kind of like good enough to drink. It says that on the package. This is literally, I've had this before. It's kind of like an add-on or just like almost like a drink. It really is. Like you could literally drink that, heat it up. It's delicious. It's full of really good minerals and vitamins and just kind of antioxidants, all the things that you get when you make like a high quality chicken stock. So, you want to do that. Into this, which I said is already simmering, I threw a couple tablespoons of olive oil, and in that we're going to put a cup of this polenta, dry polenta, which I said is like a cornmeal. As you can see, it's like a cornmeal. And this is just ready to go. It's about a cup. So we're going to put that in. And once that goes in, you kind of want to start to stir it. You almost want to mother this. You don't mother it as much as you would mother, say, a risotto. And that's mostly because if you've ever cooked like, I guess the equivalent to like American equivalent like grits, you don't really have to you just kind of have to pay attention to the grits. You don't really have to, stay there and stand there and watch them. So I'm going to let this kind of just sit and simmer for a little bit. And then afterwards, what you do is you're going to throw in some grated Parmigiano Reggiano and some Pecorino Romano cheese. and it was a cup of each. And then it's a cup of mascarpone cheese, and then it's about 3/4 of a cup of butter, which is really like 3/4 of a stick. I'm just throwing a stick of butter in there. So, and then that'll be it. And you could do salt and pepper to taste at the end. But again, the broth is usually the broth or stock comes. That one's low sodium, but it usually does have salted in there. Now, while that's kind of cooking, we're going to fry up our cutlets. Now, the cutlets are, I went out and got some thin sliced chicken cutlets to make this easier on me. You can get regular cutlets. You can get regular chicken breasts and then slice them thin. Now, one of the tricks that I did, salt and pepper them as they came out, and I put them in this bag, this gallon bag, with some flour. You have to flour them beforehand. And you flour to coat, and then you do, as you can see, I have my egg wash and I have my breadcrumbs. So with this, I'm taking half of the job out by flouring them, and this is like the easy trick. And in this flour, I threw a little bit of salt and pepper and a little bit of garlic powder, just kind of added a little bit more flavor. You can put whatever you want in there as your mix. If you want to go ahead and do some pepper flakes, some red pepper, if you want to put a little bit of like poultry seasoning, however you want to do your cutlets, you can do it. As Tim Capel loves when I say, it's your choice. There is no real recipe. I have my oil. You can do either, I'm doing canola oil. You can do vegetable oil. You can do any kind of oil you want. If you were going to do olive oil, I would suggest doing it like at a lower temperature and then like a lower amount, just because olive oil has a lower smoke point. But I'm doing canola oil just because that's usually how I do my cutlets. Now, you don't want to overcrowd the pan. So you take your, that's the biggest one. I'm going to let that kind of go last. So you take your cutlets that's been properly coated with flour, and you're going to dredge it in your egg. And for the purposes here, I'm going to try to do it with a fork. You know what? I'm not going to do it with a fork. Just because it's easier. It's faster for me this way. But let me see what I can. All right. Okay. So you want to go ahead and dump it in the, kind of dredge it in the flour, and then you dredge it in the egg mixture. And I should say that it's an egg water mixture. Like it's a little bit of water. I think it's about 6 eggs. And then you just want to put it in the breadcrumbs. You really want to push it in the breadcrumbs. And then you lay it in the pan of the oil away from you. And like I said, you don't want to overcrowd this pan. So I'm probably only going to do 2 at a time. I think I have like 5 cutlets really. So it's not going to be that much. But again, you kind of shake off the excess egg, push it in the egg. And after that, you put it in the breadcrumbs, really kind of let them stick in there. And I actually might be able to get 3, so put that one in. And then, yeah, I could do 3. But the reason why you don't want to overcrowd the pan, number one, because you want to be able to have like full coverage of the chicken cutlets in the oil, but also because when you put the cutlets in the oil, it's going to lower the temperature, and then that's going to cause it to have to cook longer. You don't really want to make it cook longer. So, all right, so that's good. So I got those 3. So I'm going to let those fry up for a minute. Wash my hands, because as we always say here on Can Keithie Take the Heat, cleanliness is right next to godliness. So, and I'm sure that one of the best sounds that you guys can have for your ASMR treats is me washing my hands and then drying them on a towel. So this is really kind of this is a simple weeknight recipe. I mean, you can do this really, it's very quick to do. I mean, this is probably all going to come together within like 20 minutes or so. And so I'm stirring in my polenta. Now it's starting to get a little thick. And I have I'm using a silicone spatula, so just kind of like, go work it down. Make sure you scrape like the corners of the pan, of the pot. Scrape the bottom. Make sure there's nothing sticking to the bottom. And then once this goes through, and it's nice and thick how you like it, You really want that to absorb. I mean, the good thing with like a risotto, and I'm very good at making risotto. Like I love making risotto, but the difference with this and the difference with polenta and risotto is that with risotto you do like a cup, and then another cup. This one you don't. This one you kind of heat up all of the broth. Oops, sorry about that. All the broth at once. So again, you're just gonna let these cutlets cook. And when you start to see some good color on the bottom, then you can flip them. Yeah, so these are good. I'm going to turn the heat up just a little bit. And while that's going, I'm going to put the, like I said, I think I only have like 2 left. Yeah. So I'm going to put these in and start to dredge these. I definitely have enough. Sometimes you may have to refill your egg or you may have to refill your breadcrumbs, but I definitely have enough of both. And I don't have to worry about. And this one last, that's a monster cutlet. That's the chef. So I got all my flour. I can toss my flour. And that's another good thing with putting it in a bag, like a little 1 gallon Ziploc, is that you don't have to worry about, you know, having it track anywhere. Stays pretty clean in the kitchen. Okay. So let me put that there. And then once this is dredged of the egg, I'm going to take the egg and I'm going to dump that out. I've seen people actually keep the egg and then kind of make like, they mix. I've only done it once. I didn't love it, but you can mix the egg with the remaining breadcrumbs and you can kind of make like almost like fritters. And I've seen that. I'm not a huge fan of that. I feel like it's kind of just almost overkill with your, you know, with what you're frying up. But you could always do that if you wanted with the duration of the breadcrumbs. Okay, this is coming along nice. All right. And now, what I will do is I do have a thermometer that I will check the chicken. So, you know what? I'm going to let that sit for a little bit more. I'm going to flip this one again. No, I don't want to flip that. So like I said, this may not take a very, very long time, but take a little bit of time. But you can always check. Yeah, so see, these aren't even, oh, they're getting there. They're getting there. They're probably about, yeah, they're not. They need a little bit more. So I'm actually going to turn the heat up a little bit on this. Again, I had it on like medium heat, and then it was starting to like sputter. And I was like, oof. So I turned it down, but I can probably turn that up. So, and now I'm just finishing up with the rest of my cutlets here. And like I said, what I'm going to do is I am going to, once these are done, I'm going to plate my polenta, and then I'm going to put the cutlet on top and probably just top it with a little bit of sauce. And that's going to be my dinner for this evening. And like I said, this is a quick, easy weeknight dinner that you can do for your family, and pretty easy. Now, for those who don't know, Matteo Lane, I believe he grew up in the Chicago area, and he's half Italian, and I think he's half Mexican. I think his dad's Italian, his mother's half Italian, I think half Mexican or something like that. So, and he's very funny. I've seen him a couple times in person, and actually, I think I'm going to be seeing him again in March. I think he's coming to Boston again. Very funny comedian. I like him a lot. He also does a podcast with one of his good friends, Nick, who sounds like this. And Nick is almost like, as Matteo would refer to him, as he kind of sounds like Squidward from SpongeBob. and I don't disagree with them at all. But he talks like this a lot. And their podcast is actually really funny. The most recent episode of their podcast you can see on YouTube is with Neil deGrasse Tyson. And Neil deGrasse Tyson basically teaches them both about like astrophysics and astronomy in general, and talking about Pluto being a planet and then not being a planet and all that. So yeah, very funny. But I did tell Jeremy that I was going to have him over for dinner one night when I make a Matteo Lane dinner. But he's not coming over for dinner tonight, but I'm going to have another one where I just want that to stop foaming as much. So I'm going to take this out. I'm going to test this one. Yep, that's good. All right, so that one's good. And what I'm just doing is I'm just putting them on a paper towel just to kind of drain some of the oil off. Yeah, good. And I'm just checking these because yeah, all right, that's good too. And then also what you can do also is after you sprinkle them with salt while they're still kind of hot out of the oil. You're going to drain out your oil, throw it on there. Okay, and then now I'm just going to go and add the other two. And like I said, this massive one, I'm going to have to let it cook for a little bit. So, but now that's the rest of the breadcrumbs. Like I said, you can, if you wanted to do a thing where you could mix them with the egg, you can always make some fritters. However, since I'm doing polenta, I don't really need any other starch. So I am just tossing them. But yeah, I know I wash my hands a lot, but I'm dealing with raw egg and raw chicken and oil and grease. And I don't know, does anybody really want that? No. So, okay. Now, let me see where we at. Yeah, so this polenta's getting pretty thick here. So I think it's about the consistency I think I want. And it's starting to pop and sputter. So now what I'm going to do is the next stage is you take a cup of mascarpone cheese, which is just really, it's like Italian, it's cream cheese, but it's kind of like, yeah, it's cream cheese. It's almost like a mix between Italian cream cheese and sour cream almost, but, and you put that in, you mix that in, and then I have, like I said, it's 2 cups. It's a cup of Parmigiano Reggiano and a cup of Pecorino Romano. So put that in. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a stick of butter. But I'm going to mix these first. Oh, yeah. Now this is going to look good. And then I'm going to just add in this butter. And plop that in. And I kind of corded it so it would melt a little bit easier. Okay. All right, so while this is cooking, I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll see where we're at. Okay, so there we have it. We have our polenta with our chicken cutlet or chicken cotella, and a little, little side sauce, a little there sauce on the top of some marinara, or just like a tomato passata, I said. So that's the meal. I'm gonna try it out, and then I'm gonna be back and read we're gonna have story time with Matteo Lane's cookbook, and we'll go over the recipe. We'll see you when we see you.
Well, if we're going to be Italian, I guess we should start murdering our brothers.
Where are you at?
You break my heart, Chris. You break my heart.
Kids aren't learning anything at that Italian school.
Look at these big ones. Ra-ta-ta-ta-ta, ra-ta-ta-ta-ta, ra-ta-ta-ta-ta.
Is this calculus?
I don't know. Ra-ta-ta-ta-ta.
Hello, everybody. So it's time for story time now with Can Keithie Take the Heat? And it is the next day. It is the next morning. I just wanted to record this. So basically, my family came home and enjoyed dinner. So I didn't really get a chance to record this part. So that's why I'm doing it the next day. But again, special shout out to my friend Jeremy for sending me this book, Matteo Lane's Your Pasta Sucks. Needless to say, everything came out great last night. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read the little story that he has, his little blurb for his cotella and for his polenta. And then I'll give you the recipe, and then we'll call it a day. So cotoletta serves up to 4 to 6. And it says, "Oh my God, I used to love when my mom made cotoletta. Say it with me, cotoletta. Just imagine Mario pronouncing the word cutlet. Cotoletta. It's chicken, but fun. But it's not chicken fingers. It's adult kid food. Everyone likes it. She'd make cutlets for weeknight dinners because they're so easy, and it'd be me, my brother, and sister gathered around a heap of them, fighting like dogs for the crispiest piece. And they're what I'd eat on those Christmas Eves when my family did the Feast of the Seven Fishes and cooked so much seafood, even a shark would say, okay, this is a bit much. I don't do creatures that can't breathe oxygen ever since I ate octopus in 2017, and my dinner companion took one look at my rapidly swelling face and said, Violet, you're turning violet, Violet. So nowadays it's me, a full-grown adult with hair transplants and a bunch of actual children at the kids' table fighting over crispy, buttery cutlets. We eat cotoletta alongside pasta in red sauce, sure, but for some reason my mom usually served them with her famous creation, pasta della mamma, which is on page 34 if you want. But you can eat them with anything, plain with arugula on the side. Some people squeeze lemon on top, though for me, this ruins the flavor. I say bring on the scurvy. For those of you who don't know, scurvy is a disease you get when you don't have enough vitamin C. So the ingredients are a third of a cup of all-purpose flour, 3 large eggs, 1 cup seasoned Italian breadcrumbs, a half a cup finely grated Parmigiano Reggiano, a quarter of a cup finely chopped flat leaf parsley, 4 medium boneless skinless breasts, 3/4 of a cup of extra virgin olive oil, 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter, kosher salt for sprinkling, freshly ground pepper, black pepper for sprinkling. Again, I kind of edited it a little bit for my own. I didn't really throw Parmigiano Reggiano on there or parsley just because I was making the chicken cutlets to go with the polenta. And as far as like the tablespoons of butter and 3/4 a cup of flour, I told you don't have to do that. What I did is I just did it in the bag for the flour, and then I mixed the eggs and the breadcrumbs and everything like that. So to separate to 3 separate shallow bowls, okay, add the flour, eggs, and breadcrumbs. Beat the egg well with a fork. This is all basically to glue the breadcrumbs to the chicken. Add the Parmigiano Reggiano and parsley to the bowl of breadcrumbs and stir well. Actually, you know what? I should have done that. That is kind of a good tip to do. Is it does kind of make them, it does add a little bit more flavor. So if you add like the Parmigiano Reggiano to the breadcrumbs and you can throw the parsley in when you fry them up, they do come out nice. I wouldn't necessarily add the parsley to the bowl. There's probably already parsley in the breadcrumb mix, if depending on what you get. But it does add at the end. If you're making like a chicken sandwich with them, it does add on the end. It's really good if you kind of like sprinkle on some parsley on the end of it. So I would definitely check that out. Put the chicken breasts on a cutting board and okay, wait. Let's acknowledge that they look disgusting right now. As a kid, I thought if you touched raw chicken, you'd get salmonella and die. Like one touch gone. So wash your hands like a million times. You know me, I'm always washing my hands. One by one, cover the chicken cutlets with a piece of plastic wrap and pound the living shit out of them with a small saucepan or even one of those meat hammer thingies, I guess, until they're an even 1/4 of an inch to a 1/2 inch thick. If you feel like my mother, you'll feel like my mother. I wonder if she was pretending those cutlets were us kids. One by one, coat the cutlets in flour, then dip them in egg, then coat them in the breadcrumb mixture, pressing so that they stick. It's a little messy, or at least it's when I do it. Pasta queen, look away. This is humiliating. In a large pan over medium heat, warm the olive oil and butter. Oil for the heat, butter for the flavor, as the Barefoot Contessa says. Let the butter melt and sputter, and then cook the cutlets 2 at a time until crispy and a beautiful golden brown color on both sides, 4 to 5 minutes per side. Drain on a paper towel lined rack, set in a baking sheet, and sprinkle right away with the salt and pepper. Keep them in a warm place like a super low oven while you cook the remaining cutlets. Again, I think the only difference I really did is I didn't use olive oil. I did say about that. I was using canola oil. You can add the butter in. The good thing about adding butter and oil with butter, rather, is that it keeps the butter from scorching and burning, which is good because the oil will it'll actually raise the heat point for the butter, so that's good. You could also use clarified butter or ghee if you have it. That also will have a higher smoking point, so you can do that as well. But he has the chicken cutlets. I had said that about you can get chicken breast and kind of cut your cutlets on your own, or if you can get thin cutlets. Most grocery stores will sell thin cutlet breasts. So that was the chicken cutlets or the cotoletta. And we'll move on to the polenta. So for polenta, we Italians don't typically measure, so I was shocked when my sister Kate told me she had a real recipe with amounts and everything for the polenta we make at Christmas and occasionally throughout the year. I don't know why we didn't make it more often, probably because pasta always won the day, and you can't serve polenta and pasta. At least my trainer advises against it. All I had to do was offer to fund a few months of Sculptra, and she sent the recipe right over. And until she sent it, I swear I had forgotten the secret was just a thruple of cheese, including mascarpone and both Parmigiano Reggiano and Pecorino Romano, for the right balance of salt, umami, and tangy sharpness. There's butter too. Oh my God, my trainer is going to kill me. So for the recipe of this, it's 5 cups of unsalted chicken stock or water, 2 tablespoons extra virgin olive oil, 1 cup of instant polenta, 1 cup of finely grated Parmigiano Reggiano, 1 cup of finely grated Pecorino Romano, 1 cup of mascarpone at room temperature, 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter, and a 1/2 tablespoon of kosher salt. And it says, note here is using water or boxed stock is fine, but look at me, I'm the Barefoot Contessa. It's even better when you've made the stock yourself. I've said that in the past, making your own chicken stock, and I haven't yet. I haven't made chicken stock yet. The one that I used
This one was great. And I highly recommend chicken broth or chicken stock. Stock is usually, I think, the better of the two. It just has to do with, I think, really what they add into it. But if you can make your own, obviously, you're ahead of the game, so that's even better. But in a medium pot over high heat, bring the stock and the oil to a boil. Start whisking as you pour in the polenta in a steady stream. I didn't do that. I probably should have. Return the mixture to a simmer, then lower the heat to medium-low. Cook, stirring frequently and occasionally scraping the pot so nothing sticks until the polenta is thick and bits of the dry corn in it are tender, and eating them no longer makes you feel like a pigeon scavenging for food on the C-train platform. Takes about 5 to 10 minutes. Add the Parmigiano Reggiano, Pecorino Romano, mascarpone, butter, and salt, and stir until completely melted. Turn off the heat, season with a little bit more salt, and serve immediately with any immediately with any saucy or stewy Italian dish, or spoon on some family meat sauce, which he lists on page 37. And again, that's kind of what it looks like at the end. That is a little what it looked like pretty much for me. And like I said, I did just a real basic marinara sauce, which I used. I had some passata, which again is usually just like freshly ground tomato and into like a sauce, and then it had some basil in it. And then I threw in a little onion powder, a little bit of garlic powder, just because I didn't fry up an onion and garlic ahead of time. I could have, but I just didn't, just for time constraints. And then I added salt and pepper and a little bit of sugar to kind of add the sweetness. Bottom line, it came out great. The sauce came out great. The cutlets came out great. The polenta came out great. My brother had like 3 servings of the polenta, which is kind of unusual for him. But he ended up making, instead of having it the way I had it, where I put the dish with the polenta and then I put the cutlet on top and then I kind of layered the sauce, he made himself a chicken parm sandwich. And so he had the chicken cutlet with the sauce and the cheese that he had, and then he made a little sandwich out of it, and then he had the polenta on the side. But he went back like twice for 2 more servings of that polenta, so came out really good. I had a lot left over, but it's going to be something I'll eat over the weekend, and that'll be really good. So that's going to do it for Can Keithie Take the Heat this week. Thank you for joining me. Please listen to everything that we do here on the Backbone Wrestling Network, Backbone Food Network, Backbone Movie Network. Check out the North-South Connection Podcast Network as well. I'm on... I think it's going to drop maybe next week or the week after, but you'll hear me on Exposition, the #1 rated X-Men podcast on the North-South Connection. And check out everything else I do. Of course, GFA Live with Petey Winston. And if I don't get to talk to you, everybody, have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you in the holiday season for the next episode of Can Keithie Take the Heat. Bye.